Hi everyone, I'm Danelle. I'm a practical nurse. That's so exciting to say because I just graduated recently. I took my NCLEX-PN exam and I passed in 85 questions, which is the minimum amount. So I feel like I have a pretty good hold on how to study for this test. So first, you want to try to participate in activities that keep you feeling as calm as possible. Now, I have anxiety. I really struggled with this while studying and for any test. I freak out. But meditating and exercising for me was crucial throughout, this study period. So I would definitely recommend you find something that works for you that can chill you out. Make sure you're eating well. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, because really your focus is to pass this test, so you have to just kind of structure your life around that. Okay, so you made it through nursing school. You can definitely pass this test. Nursing school is harder than this test, in my opinion, so just, have faith in that you passed. Nursing school, you made it through. You can definitely pass this test. So I have this thing that I'm reading off of, so I'll be looking down a lot. Give yourself about a month, maybe a month and a week if you're feeling like just unprepared, which everyone does. I gave myself way too long. I scheduled my exam like way out, and I ended up having to reschedule it. The good thing about this exam is you can reschedule it with no fee. You can reschedule it as many times as you want, which is really amazing and kind of rare for licensing exams. So just know that, if anything happens, if you get sick, life happens, you can always reschedule. So that should give you some peace of mind that you're not, permanently in a spot. You can always change it. But yeah, give yourself like a month and a week. That seems to be about the right amount of time to feel like some pressure, so you feel like you need to study, but not enough pressure that you're just like going crazy and trying to cram. Do not cram for this test. You can cram at the end, which is kind of what I did, but so this leads me into making a schedule for yourself, and I'll come back to that a little later actually. So the first thing you should do, which is actually something my roommate recommended to me, because I was like, I don't know how to start studying, like there's so much information, where should I start, how should I start, what should I do? And she said to take a practice test initially, which makes a lot of sense, because then you can determine your weak spots and kind of just see where you're at and what you need to focus on. So I took practice test. I took a comprehensive test on ATI, which was just like a retake of one I had already taken, but like a month had passed since I had taken it, so a lot of the information was lost. So I did that. I got UWorld, subscription to UWorld, and then at the very end I bought 2 tests from the actual NCLEX website, the Pearson View tests. So you don't have to get all of these things. You may have used something different in nursing school, like Kaplan or something. We used ATI, so I already had that subscription, and ATI is amazing. I really liked their practice tests and the way they administered information. A little boring and dense how they administer information, but there's some good information in there. It's not complete information though, so just know that you need to use many different sources, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So after you take your practice exam, you want to analyze your test results. So I would take 1, 2 practice tests, you know, as many as feels right for you in that moment. And analyze your results. So go through, you know, each category. There should be at the end of the test an option to analyze your results, and just maybe write down the areas that you got, you know, the most questions wrong in, and then plan to kind of hone into those areas when you actually do start studying. So after you do this, you take the test, you get your test results, make a study plan. So based on those results, that assessment that you've done on how you did, pulling out the areas that you're weak in, make a study plan. So make out a calendar, whether it's like online in a Word document or just writing it out. Each day, you know, what you're gonna focus on, maybe even how long you're gonna focus on those things, and then also include rest days in this study plan. So make sure you're not, like, I don't know, doing intense studying every day. Okay, so coming back to reviewing from many sources, which is what I mentioned a few minutes ago. So I found that using just one or even two sources just was not adequate. I wasn't getting the full information. So a good example of this is with delegation. So ATI, you know, has a section in their leadership book, this one, about delegation, and you'd think it's, you know, the information you need, all the information you need. It is not. And I learned that the hard way by taking practice tests and being like, oh my god, I have no idea about this delegation question. So I went through all of my sources. I used this book, the Saunders Comprehensive PN book, which I do recommend. I used the ATI. I even used some of my nursing books. I used UWorld, which has amazing information about everything. They really have good explanations. So then I kind of gathered information from all these sources just with weak points. And so I wrote down, like, you know, this is for unlicensed assistive personnel and delegation. Well, I guess you can't really see that. And I wrote down, you know, just everything an assistive personnel can do based on all these different sources, because there's little, you know, there's little things here and there, like UAPs, you know, can't suction tracheostomies, but they can suction established tracheostomies in certain cases. So things like that that I wasn't getting from just one source, I was able to gather from a bunch of different sources. So I'll probably make another video on that, because there's a lot of good information that I have about delegation. Okay, so another person you should check out is Cathy Parkes. I'll link her channel in the description. She saved my life in nursing school and beyond. She goes through the ATI texts. Even if you don't have ATI, doesn't matter, you can follow along her videos. She goes through each chapter and picks out the crucial information. She is so helpful. So say you're feeling really weak on pharmacology, you can go to her channel. You can check out her videos on pharmacology. There's a bunch, but they're only like 5 to 7 minutes each, and you can do them double speed, and yeah, it's really, really, really helpful. I highly recommend her. And she also has flashcards, so you can go to her website and get those if you like to use flashcards to study. Okay, so now getting into the actual tests, just kind of from taking the test and from studying, there are a few areas that Pearson view really likes to focus on, that NCLEX really likes to focus on. So I'm going to go through these kind of slowly so you can like absorb and maybe write some things down. So priority patients, that's a super critical, big area to study. You're going to use your ABCs, your airway, breathing, circulation, disability, exposure, ABCDE actually. You're going to use Maslow's hierarchy. I felt like, I don't know, I didn't really use Maslow's that much. But you're also going to think when you have a question about, you know, which patient is the priority to take care of, you're going to think of the ABCs. You're going to think of expected findings. For example, if a patient has COPD, their oxygen saturation is going to be way lower than a patient who does not have COPD. And that's going to be an expected finding. That is normal for a COPD patient to even have like 88%, 90% oxygen saturation. That is normal, and probably does not need immediate attention when it comes to priority patients. So that's another area to study, expected findings in, you know, each pathology. However much, you know, you can study expected findings is really important. And you're going to think about which patient, you know, needs treatment right away. And this comes down to your nursing judgment, your critical thinking. So you're going to kind of have to pull out all the stops on this. Just stay grounded, read through each question, make sure you're reading through the answers, you know, thoroughly. Make sure you're not missing anything in the question because they can trick you a little bit. So really make sure you're focusing on that question and then just methodically going through the answers. Okay, so priority patients, expected findings, delegation, like I mentioned, especially to unlicensed assistive personnel, is really important. Consent is also a big area that you should be familiar with. Advanced directives, diabetes management. NCLEX really likes to ask about diabetes management, so make sure you review, you know, the HbA1c test, glucose tolerance test, all of those things. Infection control is another major area that I know a lot of people get tested on when they take their exam. So I have a video, I'll link it down. It's not my video, it's someone else's, but there's a mnemonic or a few mnemonics for infection control that was really helpful for me. And let's see, labs, definitely know your labs. Go through labs in like just flashcard form. That's really the best way to learn. And, you know, just go through the flashcards periodically as you're studying, maybe, you know, every few days, every week, whatever. So vaccines, not as important. I didn't have any questions about vaccines on my test, but when it comes to vaccines, definitely know which ones are live. So, you know, certain immunocompromised patients, or I guess, yeah, most, if not all, immunocompromised patients cannot have live vaccines. So know that. It's all about keeping the patient safe. And this is a tip that I got, you know, prior to taking my test, is how do we keep the patient safe? That's what you're thinking about when you're taking this exam. You have to keep that thought in your head throughout the whole test. How do I keep the patient safe? What is the option that keeps the patient the safest in this specific situation? Okay, that is important. Okay, so I would say take a practice test every week or even 2 times a week, especially when you're getting closer to the exam. I would say wake up at the time you would for the actual test. you know, eat what you would, do what you would in the morning, and then sit down, put some earplugs or headphones on to make it quiet, because that room is really quiet when you take your test, and just treat it like it's the real exam. You know, really just make yourself believe that that's the test, you're taking it, and that is really helpful. That's what I did for the last week before I took the test. I took like 3 practice exams, and it was really, really helpful. So essentially this test, the NCLEX, it's about nursing judgment and critical thinking before anything else. So as you're taking these practice tests, as you're studying, you know, all of these different diseases, you're really going to be tested on how you will act in life-threatening situations, or how you will act to keep the patient safe. And that's what should be in the back of your mind as you're studying and you're taking your practice tests, because you're really not going to get questions like, what are the components of blood? You're going to get questions like, you know, here's this patient's vital signs, here's their labs, they're on the floor, you know, what do you do? So let's see. When I took my test, I had about 10 to 12 select all that apply questions, which is everyone's absolute nightmare. And I really found that it wasn't bad. The select all that applies, they weren't bad. They were mostly skill-based for me. So I would go through, you know, the skills that you've done through nursing school, just lightly, you know, just the steps. I got one about, you know, I guess I can't really say. I don't know how much information I can give. Anyway, go through your skills. And yeah, so that is pretty much it. Don't want to make this video longer than how long it is now, but I will put some links in the description to help you out more. And good luck. You can do it. I believe in you. You can definitely do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And yes, good luck.